Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of the Ski the Kingdom show. This is our new podcast series where we're looking to give more coverage, more awareness and more exposure to all the great things going on within the UK Snowsports scene. This week's episode is the first in a 2-part series looking at careers within the snowsports media, so let's get right into this week's show. So first, a roundup of some of the highlights in the UK Snowsports community this past week. First of all, we had the very first entry to the Planks Grassroots video competition. Millie Wilkinson, longtime Planks rider, got in there first and released her edit, showing the highlights of her past year of skiing in the UK. It was great to see Millie really making the most of the UK Snowsports facilities, and she managed to get footage from loads of slopes, including the Snow Centre at Hemel, Snowdome Tamworth, Halifax Dry Slope as well, and she also hiked up to the remains of Sheffield Ski Village to session the yellow gas pipe up there. So good luck to Millie in the competition, and we can't wait to see the rest of the entries. And staying on the theme of video competitions, Max Rye dropped his entry for the Kevin Salonius Backyard Summer Rail Challenge. Max has been working hard all summer, stacking clips for this competition, and there's been a lot of work not only gone into building features for it, but also skiing it every day and trying to get the best shots possible. I know he'd be super grateful for your support. We'll put the link in the description, go check it out and go support Max. And also this week, we headed down to Southampton to check out the Spenser Pession Race Camps. We caught up there with top UK ski journalist Peter Davies, and we'll be releasing his interview in next week's episode. I also had a long chat with Spenser Pession, who's a former Olympic ski racer and head coach on these camps. He was telling me how they've got kids that are already competing on the artificial scene and really training hard to get faster, but they've also got kids that are recreational skiers and are taking their first steps now into ski racing. And this camp's a real stepping stone into giving them confidence to hit gates, turn up at races and feel confident and ready to compete. And it's awesome to see there's events and camps like this that are helping kids get more involved in the UK artificial ski scene. So that was great to see. So this week's episode is the first in a 2-part series looking at careers within the snowsports media. I caught up with Ian Findlay on Skype this week. Ian's someone you might know through his talent development lead role at Snowsport England, but he's also someone who's hugely involved in not only the snowsports media, but in the wider sports media as well through his commentary role. So here's our interview. So Ian, thank you very much for being on the podcast today. You're a huge figure in the UK snowsports scene, so I'm sure everyone listening to this is going to know who you are. But maybe for the one or two that don't, give us a brief introduction about your backstory, how you got to be where you are today, and all you're up to at the moment.
Well, it's been a long backstory. Started in the sport I've been skiing my whole life, and just always loved it. Always been, whether it was on a dry slope in Glasgow or in the mountains of Scotland, just always loved skiing, and got into ski racing I think when I was about 15, so a little bit later than most people start ski racing, but just absolutely loved it, the competitive side of it, and things. I wasn't the best of racers, but I enjoyed my time out battling down courses and things. But I got into teaching when I was 16, and then moved into coaching on the dry slope at Bracknell when we lived down south, and that really developed a love for helping other people in this sport. I got much more out of coaching than I ever did from being an athlete myself, and the coaching side of it just had this instant passion for, and that's led on to a few other things as well. I got involved in ski cross, and that's been my main route, I guess, into a career in sport. Had a few goes at racing ski cross back in the early days, which a little bit more successful than my alpine racing, but I loved that head-to-head aspect of ski cross racing. It was new, different atmosphere. But I ended up being in a lucky position. Started off as a volunteer and ended up as GB team manager back in the early days of the sport, and that led into doing some coaching on the World Cup tour in ski cross quite a few years ago, and just absolutely loved being in that environment. I was certainly well out of my depth at the time, but you have to learn quickly on the job, and after a couple of years did a master's in sports coaching at University of Stirling, which was a fantastic program up there, and that really opened my eyes to the wider world of sport, particularly talent development, skill acquisition, development of expertise, were some of my main areas of research. And yeah, that kind of led me away from snow sports. Actually, I took a job in basketball as player development manager for Basketball Scotland, but I missed skiing too much and ended up coaching ski cross with some younger athletes, and ended up at Snowsport England, and alongside all that, somehow found myself in the commentary booth for Eurosport. So a lot of things happened very quickly over the last going back over the last few years. But yeah, just very, very lucky to be able to have a job which is my passion.
It sounds, I guess, hindsight's a wonderful thing, and you kind of look back and it all seems like it's all flowed very smoothly, and you've got to obviously where you are now. Was it, I guess there's many people that kind of sort of 17, 18 that want to be in your position when they grow up. Was it a very conscious choice, I'm doing this to achieve this, or is it all, I mean, what advice would you give to people that maybe are at the bottom of the mountain now looking to try and get where you are, and what would you tell them?
Yeah, my route certainly wasn't smooth or obvious. When I was 17, 18, I was still ski racing, and that was really all I thought about. I think deep down I knew I would never do anything as a racer, but it was all I wanted to do. And I probably made some choices that didn't help me in the short term. So just going to university at 18, where I maybe should have looked at other options. But when you're 18, it's very difficult to make those decisions. Hindsight's great great things. So but ultimately, I think all the roadblocks that were thrown up for me, they led me onto the path that I was on as well. I mean, I did some seasons in Whistler, just skiing around, doing a little bit of work with clubs and things, and just sort of sampling as many different experiences as I could. I'm always saying yes to opportunities and things that didn't pay the bills, that's for sure. And that caused a few problems down the line, but it was great fun. My advice to anyone that, if you're looking at a career in sport, it's not just being an athlete. There's so many different opportunities, whether that's teaching skiing or coaching or getting involved in the administration side of the sport, media side of the sport, the equipment side. There's a huge industry out there in sport in general, not just in snow sports. So sample as many opportunities as you can. Don't be afraid to volunteer and get involved. It was my voluntary work that led me to a career in sport. So just get out there and do what you can.
That's really interesting to hear, and it's almost see how the work, I'm sure we see all the fun stuff you get to do, but no, behind the scenes there's a lot of hours grinding away and putting the effort in to get to where you are. And I kind of wanted to talk a lot about your commentary as well. It almost sounds like a bit of a dream job to get paid to watch snow sports and then give your opinion on it. I'm sure it's a lot harder when you're in the booth. How did the commentary all come about? How did you get into to be in that position to do all this?
Very little bit of luck, to be honest. It was Ski Cross made its debut, and I was the team manager of the 2010 Olympics. And after the men's Ski Cross race, there was just this huge boom. It was one of the best races I'd ever watched. They had massive viewing figures on BBC Two because of the scheduling. I think it was 8 o'clock on a Sunday night, so it was right in that old Top Gear slot. So I ended up on Simon Mayo show on Radio 2, a bit of drive time radio interview, and it just there was just a bit of interest. And I was studying at Stirling University and had watched a few of the previous seasons World Cups that I wasn't coaching at, and just decided to give Eurosport a phone, who I worked for in the winter, and see if I could come in as an expert, the second commentator, just to lend a hand with the ski cross coverage. And they said yes, and we kind of went from there.
Rest is history. And
yeah, but again, it wasn't quite as smooth. I did a few broadcasts, and they went, but as well as first sort of time behind the microphone can go as a second commentator. In that role, you're there just to be the expert analyst, if you like. Give that technical, tactical insight. What are the racers thinking? Why do you think they've made that decision? How will that feature impact on a race? All those kind of things. But it kind of stopped. I did a few broadcasts. It stopped. I had a different job outside of Snowsport, so I wasn't really wasn't particularly time free either. I didn't have a lot of time to give, and I didn't push it particularly hard. But the following year, I was back in Snowsports, and I just put another call in, and sure enough, ended up back as a second commentator. I had the opportunity to work with a lot of their lead commentators who were sort of bouncing around the ski cross and things. That was a great experience working with guys that I'd grown up as a ski racing fan listening to, and then to find myself in the commentary box with them was an absolute honor, to learn and see how those guys operated. And a couple of months into that which would have been 2012-13 season, I was asked if I would give it a go myself, and from that point, it's been me on my own in the commentary box, or with a second commentator myself. So sort of transitioned from that expert on ski cross to just a lead commentator on a number of different sports.
I guess we don't fully appreciate kind of how much there is and how much goes into it to make that kind of smooth, slick presentation package that we all enjoy so much.
Yeah, it's difficult. When you're sitting watching clips at home on YouTube or Facebook, it's very easy to hit pause, rewind, analyze those tricks. There are people out there that can call them absolutely instantly, but and some people do call them on other broadcasts and things that really, really well, better than I am at that. Although I'm learning all the time, I spend a lot of my summers just constantly watching clips of what people are doing so I can sharpen up on calling those tricks. But it's not easy when you're on a live broadcast. You've got to get it right first time or not at all. So sometimes it's then there's little things, look at the trick and we'll maybe just call a grab or call the rotations, whether it's landing switch, takeoff switch, little things. And then on the replay, you can try and go into a little bit more detail about the trick and say why it was more difficult than a previous rider. But when you're under live TV conditions, that is quite a challenging thing to do.
I imagine with the tricks that are going down these days as well, the quad corks and everything, and the crazy spins, crazy grabs.
Yeah, it's progressing all the time, which makes it so much fun to commentate on. I mean, most of my focus is on the ski and snowboard cross. I do moguls, big air snowboard, which has actually been one of my favorite ones to commentate over the last year, particularly because of the Super Series, which was a load of events I think they're in Milan, Mönchengladbach, Quebec City, but we also did a big air test event from Korea. There was one in Moscow. So I had a lot of fun doing big air snowboard over the last year, and you just sort of get into a rhythm, into a flow with it as well, and that kind of helps as things progress.
Nice. And look forward to this winter coming up. I'm sure there's lots of opportunities this winter, lots going on. It's all going to be really high standard as well. Everyone gets vying for those Olympic spots and other events. So lots of exciting things to look forward to.
Yeah, I mean, every season in winter sports there's always something. There's only one season out of four which doesn't have Olympics or World Championships, and that's always the year after the We've got World Championships have just been. We've got Olympics and World Championships again. Then we'll have a non-World Championship year after that. So coming up this year, the Olympics is obviously a lot more, particularly on the freestyle and snowboard side. We'll see guys hitting some of the bigger names, maybe hitting the FIS circuit, trying to qualify for the games. But on the ski and snowboard cross side, on the alpine side, it'll be a lot more World Cups earlier in the season. Things will be condensed sort of through November, December, early January, and then I don't think there's almost no World Cups in February because of the Olympics. So it's going to be a very busy season. Hopefully I'm behind the mic as much as possible, because I absolutely love doing it. I think I'm improving as a broadcaster all the time, and there's no substitute for experience as a broadcaster. So yeah, really looking forward to getting started this winter.
So you've done huge amounts of work in the winter sports arena, lots of winter sports commentary. What else do you do outside of winter sports in terms of commentary?
Yeah, well, obviously I've started as a ski cross commentator. That's where a lot of my experience has been. I've moved on. I've done alpine commentary, emceeing, hosting alpine events, on camera for alpine, ski cross, snowboard cross, moguls, aerials, half pipe, ski and snowboard, slope style, Nordic combined, luge, big air. So I've covered pretty much every winter sport. But last year I started to do some field hockey, which was great. Really enjoyed doing that. I've got a background in basketball as well, so looking to get more into the basketball and football commentary side of things as well, where I've got some experience from early days and done a little bit of training with the FA a couple of years ago in some football commentary. So those areas are sports I'm really keen to progress into in the summer, as well as motorsports. I basically want to commentate on anything. I love it, but things that I think my skills would translate over to pretty well would be motorsports, tennis, and then where I've got other passions, as I say, like basketball, football. But obviously you can't commentate on everything, but I think BMX would be one, particularly with my ski and snowboard cross experience, that I would be pretty strong at as well. So yeah, certainly looking at the moment for opportunities in one or two other sports that aren't necessarily dependent on the weather for the work.
And to finish, I was just going to ask, where can we follow you? Is any channels, any of your social channels we can keep up with all you're up to this winter, or tune in and hear? Where can we follow you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a freelance broadcaster, so we can work on any platform. But there's great coverage for all the winter sports, certainly on Eurosport 1, Eurosport 2, Eurosport Player as well. But also, if you check out all the phys disciplines, have really good YouTube channels as well, where you can watch the action. You won't hear me on the YouTube channels, but there's really good ways to access the FIS, the FIS content across all the disciplines, seeing the winning runs and things. So it's really good for being able to consume what's happening on all the World Cup tours. But I'll fingers crossed, be predominantly commentating for Eurosport this winter again. If you want to keep in touch and see what commentary I'll be doing this winter, you can check out my website, ianfinleytv.com. As well as that, fairly active on Twitter at ianfinleytv, and on Instagram, same again, ianfinleytv.
Brilliant. Ian, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it, and good luck with everything this winter.
Yeah, no problem. Absolute pleasure. Thanks, Jack.
So thank you very much to Ian for your time this week. Looking ahead to what's coming up in the next few weeks, and it seems like Norfolk's the place to be. They're hosting the All England Ski Race Championships on the 2nd and 3rd of September, and then later in the month they're hosting their legendary Farmers Jam freestyle competition. That's on the weekend of the 16th and 17th. We'll put the links in the description below, and they're both ones you're going to want to check out. So thank you very much for listening to this week's episode of the Ski the Kingdom show. We'll be back next week with part 2 of Careers in the Snowsports Media, talking to top UK ski journalist Peter Davies. If you've got any feedback or questions, please leave them in the comments below or email me, jack@skithekingdom.co.uk. We look forward to reading them. Thanks very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.